Hey everybody, welcome back to Miles and Mentors. Today we're joined by a great one, Neal Revane over at Freight Ninja. We're going to learn all about his path into the industry and that lived and learned knowledge he's gained along the way. So stick with us. We're going to pass that info on to you right after this on Miles and Mentors.
Welcome to Miles and Mentors, the podcast that humanizes trucking, getting real life advice and insights from logistics professionals from all over the industry. We sit down with those seasoned mentors who have put in the miles with a mission to pass on the knowledge gained from years in the industry to you. Now buckle up and enjoy the show.
Hey, what's going on, Neal? Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to kind of go through my background.
100%. You know, I see that you're another marketing guy. So the struggle here is going to be to keep this contained and not just get on some nerdy rants as we're going to want to do.
Yes, I agree.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, man, for those that may not know you, give us a quick background, just who you are and your role in the industry today.
Yeah, sure. So it kind of takes me back to about 2014, 2015, when my marketing journey really started and took off. I feel like that was right around when digital marketing was very new, but really helping companies grow. I feel like that's when marketing automation and all that was starting to become a big buzzword around many companies. So yeah, that's where I kind of got my start. I was working with a medical device company. And throughout the years, I jumped from there to a manufacturing company, back to another med device, and then now I'm here in the logistics end. Been with Freight Ninja for probably 2 years now. The unfortunate thing is that where I was at prior, they decided to close their doors as a bit of a startup. So I guess the silver lining, I was able to join. My friend here is he started to grow Freight Ninja, so he's looking for some marketing help. And again, one door closes and another door opens, so it was a great opportunity there.
That's awesome, man. You know, so from one marketing guy to another, especially with the podcast and stuff and being on the front side of things now, I often get that whole marketing, really? Like that's not the first role you think of in logistics. So I'm curious from your perspective, what brought you to the industry in the very first place? Like I know you got into this, but was this on your radar or did it just happen?
It just happened. What I kind of always brought with me from company to company was that marketing background, regardless of who you're talking to. A customer's a customer. You may just have to play with some verbiage or how to reach out to them.
Right.
I will say that this has definitely been a bigger learning experience compared to the med device industries, who you're talking to. So and how you're able to reach them. But yeah, no, it just I didn't foresee myself getting into this type of industry or background. But again, everything that I've learned throughout the last 10, 11 years has really been able to make an impact.
Fantastic, man. Yeah, I mean, in that time frame, marketing has definitely grown leaps and bounds. And I would say, especially in this industry as well, you know, like we mentioned, when you think about logistics or trucking, especially, it's like marketing is not the first thing that comes to mind. But when I got into the industry, I started working for a carrier first and foremost. They didn't even have a marketing budget to start out. And, you know, that's changed night and day. How have you seen the industry be impacted since marketing's really become to be a major player?
Yeah, I can at least speak from our end. There aren't many competitors out there, or those that are in the like industry. We focus more on that truck parking end of the industry, but there are some companies out there that are that have a larger budget for marketing, and more power to them. I've had to really scale our marketing budget and where we're focused in on all that. But just from following LinkedIn and all that, a lot of the carriers, both national and smaller, I do see a very big impact on those national carriers of getting their name out there, whether it's for hiring or if they're trailer leasing. that they're having sales or they're bringing in a whole new fleet of their trailers in for 2025. But really being able to see the industry under a closer lens, I definitely see that there's a big uptick in on that. Depending, again, doesn't matter what size of a company it is, but I do see the impressive growth from the digital end from all these companies.
Yeah. So you mentioned the kind of the company's mission here. You guys are really focused in on that truck parking, and that's something that we hear a ton about, especially in the last several years, and it only seems to be a growing issue.
Yeah.
What give us a little bit of background on the situation behind truck parking and kind of your guys' mission to combat that?
Yeah, yeah, big crisis has been. We're primarily focused in on managing properties for either property owners or we lease it out ourselves. So we got a lot more skin in the game when it comes to that. From an operations and we have about 42 plus yards across the nation. So we're really priding ourselves on that community aspect. The drivers themselves, whether they're the one to four, 1 to 5 fleets or the national fleets, or even just an owner operator, we all want them to, take pride in where they're parking. We give them safe, secure access, perimeter fencing, everything that they need. But when it comes to, kind of policing it themselves, we want to make sure that, it's they're parking there too, as much as someone else is. So, making sure things are clean,
Yeah.
and everything. So, outside of that, what we were really our value and our goal is to help these drivers find a safe place that they can park where they know they can drop their vehicle off, whether it's their own personal vehicle and then they can go onto their daily life or nightly life, however you want to look at it. But with their actual valued assets, because I know there can either be empty containers or trailers, or they can be stuff with millions of dollars worth of
Yeah.
goods. We just want to make sure that their things are protected. They can leave, they can go eat if they needed to stay at a hotel or something. At least they know that their goods and values are protected.
100%, man. And it sounds like, Freight Ninja is able to really impact the industry in this way because that is a huge concern. And, like you mentioned, trucks, especially the ones that are loaded. I mean, trucks by themselves, they're not cheap, right? I mean, anything happens to this stuff that's detrimental to not only that business, but everyone they're hauling for. But then you look at a single loaded trailer. I mean, how much that would impact, the industry to have stuff disappear and be damaged and just plain delayed, really causes a hiccup in the entire chain. Looking at this issue of truck parking, do you think it really gets enough tension, within the industry or especially from policymakers?
That's a good question. It seems like it does, but also it may seem like, I don't want to say falling on deaf ears, but it may just seem like to be a topic. It gets touched on and then gets pushed to the wayside. I think outside of policymakers and all that, it is getting a lot of buzz. And again, going back to LinkedIn, I think a lot of people are a lot more open about it now. Whether it's free parking versus paid parking or where places are being charged for parking, we want to be, as much as it could be a negative, we want to be a part of that narrative, but from a perspective of this is what we have to offer. And although it is paid, but there's a lot more behind it instead of, a company trying to make money, which we
Right.
all want to do at the same end. But we want to make sure that we're putting the assets into it of full perimeter fencing, security gate with specific gate code that only that driver or that fleet has, so no one else is getting access to that. LED lighting, like making it a state of the art yard, where yeah, okay, it may be an issue of paying, but sometimes you have to pay in order to get what you need when it comes to that protection. So yeah, it's getting a lot of buzz, both I would say negative and positive, but it's just trying to stay in the mix and be a part of it from, I would say, the trucking community end, where I don't know if it's there yet from a policymaker. And I know states are getting funding for budgets for um, creating additional parking at some of the rest stops and all that, but that still, kind of runs that risk of, maybe them getting jumped, knock on wood, that doesn't
Yeah.
happen, but them getting jumped, they're getting their um, freight stolen and things like that. And it's not as protected as you think, but yeah,
Right.
I think we're probably going to see a big impact within the next 5 years or so, or even before that.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of the end of leveraging technology from Freight Ninja and kind of what that entails?
From a marketing end or an operations?
A little bit of both. I mean, operations mainly, but I'd love to hear the marketing as well.
Yeah, I'll start with operations.
Okay.
Yeah, again, depending on where we're at when it comes to whether we're managing the location for another outfit, or we actually lease it on our own. Really, really the development of that location is where things come into play. If it's fully developed, obviously we know this time and age, it's expensive to put down concrete or even asphalt. So we're given what we have with Mother Nature when it comes to, dirt or concrete grindings and all that. So sometimes we have to live with that. But we have our own partners, or we at least
Mhm.
try to build a network of providers that we can go to nationwide when it comes to choosing the correct security gate access vendor. Same thing with lighting. We have certain locations that we don't have a hand on. So Florida, North Carolina, things like that. Obviously, we're up here in Chicago. We like to bring in cameras, so we
Oh
at
yeah.
least have eyes on them from our standpoint. But that all being digital in the cloud, where we do have yard managers for all of our locations, where they can sit in, go on the computer, take a look at what the camera is. If there was an issue with the gate or something got broken into, we can at least go back to the recordings and say, yeah, here you go, this is what happened, type of situation. So yeah, really leveraging partners and finding new technologies that are out there when it comes to security, the gates, as well as camera systems.
I love that, man. The industry, I guess, all over, even past the logistics industry, come a long ways from just, leaving a riled up dog in a lot
Right.
overnight.
Right. And I
It
think
is cool.
one more thing to add too, from the operations end, is how they can book.
Mm,
We're not at the point yet where you can go on an app, log in, make your payment, select your spot, anything like that. But we do it online, where obviously we have our own maps. We know what's available, what's not available, so we can kind of provide them with their spot, especially if they're looking for a particular spot size, which we
right.
typically have 3 different sizes. But yeah, the technology on our end of inventory, as well as booking, and how the drivers can pay as well. So that adds a additional, I guess, um, additional piece of security for their own selves, that they know that we're doing what we're doing in the right way.
Most definitely. As we're talking a little bit about, kind of the marketing and digital side here,
Mhm.
you guys are reaching out and targeting those truckers to make sure they know you about your service. And that's an interesting, and I'm kind of tapping in here to learn a little bit too, to get the
Yeah.
podcast out there. But what have you been leveraging marketing wise to make sure that you're getting in front of that, correct audience type, those truckers on, social media and so forth?
Yeah. That's still the work in progress. Definitely able to get in front of those national larger fleets on LinkedIn. their presence on there, as well as the C-suite positions that are on there, or the individuals that are on there. So they're seeing us a lot more. We're definitely doing a better job at that. Google's been a friend and foe of mine. It's still pretty difficult to get through them with the different locations that we have and get them verified and approved. But that's a battle for me to continue to fight. But getting on there for the Google Maps and Google Business Profile, really updating our website so it's really SEO driven.
Yeah.
I think it was a page or two. Now we have multiple pages with the keywords and everything like that. So that's been a big driving force for us. Google Ads, that's been big. We've kind of been, I've been strategic with that, with running different campaigns and letting those run out just to kind of see, are those worth the dollars and spend? I know certain things I try to stay away from because of the bidding process, and does it make sense to try and spend more when you may not get a whole lot of traffic, depending on what the keyword is and who you're fighting against with that.
Right.
I've done a lot of e-blasts. We have a database that we've collected over the years, so I'm shooting out the e-blast to a lot of these drivers or companies. And really our sales team is doing a huge effort right now with the outbound calling from that perspective. But the only other thing that we do have out there that we do normally have are yard signs. But then also during election time specifically, as we just kind of got out of there last year, those road signs. So certain locations we have those bandit signs out. So from a marketing perspective, we're kind of in the face of a lot of those drivers that are going through those industrial parks or heavy trafficked areas. So we want to stay on top of mind, but at least just give a phone number and it shows truck parking. So I'd say those are the avenues. But for myself here now, kind of in it for 2 years, it's still a learning process of how to get in front of those owner operators or those sole independent drivers.
Definitely. And from a marketing guy myself, you touched in on the Google Business Profile, and that just kind of lit a little OCD fire in my head, because even on a standard business today, Google, if you're listening out there, it can be a nightmare just depending, on the situation.
Right.
I can't even imagine how to do that for a parking facility with the requirements they have for that. It does sound quite challenging. So sorry about that.
It's okay. It's a learning process for me too. But I don't still understand it, because I could have, I don't know how many we have, but let's just say I have 25 that are verified, and I add some and I still get stopped or suspended, where it's like, I don't know what else information I can give you, because it's kind of all already there.
Yeah. Not to get in on a huge tangent here, but I've dealt with that for not only my personal company, but other side clients and stuff I've helped out. And it's like, sometimes there'll be a home-based business, and that's just like mind-boggling to Google, to the point that on my personal one, we got denied being a house. I don't typically have clients there. It's, digital facing or whatever. So we finally just, because we don't have big signage on the front of our house, like who's going to have an LED sign or whatever installed in the front of your house. So we took a piece of printer paper and just taped it to the front door. Oh, approved. That's okay. That's what got us.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's kind of scary in its own self too. It's just like, okay, if that's all it took, then.
Exactly. So, in the trucking, the logistics industry, man, there are a lot of financial aspects to really pay attention to, especially for those guys, getting into this themselves, going from that company driver to an owner operator, growing a fleet, et cetera. It's an industry you can make a lot of money in, but it's an industry that can cost a lot of money as well. And there's definitely services out there that people are reluctant about, but can help you with, fuel programs, factoring. Do you feel like parking is one of those that needs to be addressed when you're looking at like your financial plan for a business?
Yeah, I do think so. Obviously, it is an additional expense. How they could do that, I'm not sure. I think I was reading in some comments and things like that where, you could at one point write it off, but I think that's kind of gone away with some adjustments from the new president today. So I don't know if that was from before or now, but yeah, I think it's fine trying to find that area of how you can actually put this into the expenses. We haven't talked to some of those organizations in depth of how can maybe we figure this out of you work with or you're working with those owner operators to try and get them up and going, and how can you put in their parking, like we can give you an estimated amount, obviously that may or may not be met, but yeah, how we can work with some of those factoring companies to try and do this,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
the one thing that comes to mind is like an Evans network. Like, how can we all partner with them of trying to figure out, okay, how can this get into not only from your standpoint, but then maybe that trickle down effect where that kind of goes to other national companies that can say, oh, hey, that's actually probably the best way to kind of include this into the expenses at the end of the year. But I will say, we've had some, not on that topic, but on just from a partnership standpoint of speaking with some of those factoring companies or their fuel cards of, how we can all work together where
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's all the same customers and
Right.
drivers. So how can we all provide what they need at the end of the day?
Definitely. Yeah. I think there's, definitely a lot of opportunity there, especially it's just simpler, right? To if you're able to get in that network and somebody's already working with somebody, then
Right,
maybe they hadn't heard you before, but if you're,
right.
preferred program, you're there, now you're in front of them. Doesn't hurt that way. Would you mind just for those maybe not in tuned,
Mhm.
what does truck parking look like? Like, is it different expenses depending on where you're at or part of nation, or what should you be expecting as far as the financial aspect of truck parking?
From our perspective, from an operations, it is different depending on the location that we find or that we're operating. You know, where we're at, we're out in, excuse me, we're about 25 minutes west of downtown Chicago, where, excuse me, it's about, I think our average is 400 for a full truck and trailer to park at the locations around here. Excuse me. If you go another 25-30 minutes west, it goes down to about 150, 175. So it's really
Mm,
the high demand areas.
yeah.
And I'm only speaking from Chicago, but if you go more close to the city of Chicago, it even drops to like 200. So it really depends on where the location is. But I would say on top of that, obviously the acreage, what everybody's in for as well. So there's a lot of factors that come into play. So
Yeah.
I think from an average, I think we're looking at about 200 for a full tractor trailer across the nation, or just from an average from our standpoint. So
Yeah.
yeah, it really depends on the location.
No, that makes sense. And like we were talking before, how you mentioned, there's some free options, there's paid options out there, but it's a lot different than just a standard parking lot, especially for when you're talking commercial freight. I mean, there's a lot of weight there. There's a lot of wear and tear that goes in. So you've got to maintain these facilities, make
Right.
sure they're going to hold up, et cetera. And to put in perspective for somebody maybe not in the industry, being like, oh my God, listen to these prices. When you hit those high demand networks, like I rented a car in Boston, a car, right? And I
Mhm.
parked in a parking garage. We were inside this place for like maybe an hour and a half, and it was $75. like
Right.
hour and a half, $75. So you're talking a full tractor trailer. Like,
Right.
yeah, it's there's definitely some expense that comes with it for sure. Especially being able to have a facility that you can successfully navigate those through is a whole nother thing.
Well, you brought up a good point there of, a few hours of parking in that parking garage. One thing that we do, I don't want to say educate, but that we do bring up is, okay, if you're going to be here, if you're going to be back and forth, if you're looking for something for the day, if you're going to be back and forth a couple times within that week or even that month, financially, it's probably easier for you to pay for that month and know that you have a dedicated assigned spot for you
Yeah,
whenever you come back and forth, if you're going through, if that's your lane. Whereas, if you're going to pay, let's just throw a number out there, $35 or $40 a day, that's going to add up how many ever days you're going to be there or weeks that, yeah, financially it probably make a little bit more sense to do that for the month than it is just to pay daily.
definitely. Now, I'm not fully in tune with your guys' program and how it works. Is this like you get for the one off? I know you said if you want to reserve one for like a month, that's awesome. But is there a way to do like a recurring plan or whatever, and then you can have parking set up along your way on a regular basis, or is this like specifically on your route you go on and set up for a one off parking, or how's that work?
So yes, so we have, it is month to month. There's no long-term contracts unless you want to get into that long-term contract, but we don't want to, have someone stuck in a contract if they don't need to be. So yeah, it is primarily month to month. We're not in the business model yet of daily, nightly, or weekly.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
think that is something that probably is in our future. But really the month to month. And when it comes to, if they're on our specific route, we don't necessarily have a subscription or membership uh, business plan yet, where if we know that they're running from Chicago down to Jacksonville and there's 4 of our locations on the way and they pay one lump fee, then they can park at any of those locations. We haven't, that's something that's, I feel like we've touched on, but it hasn't really been put into any kind of development plan or business model yet. So in terms of that, that is something that we don't offer today. It could be something in the future. But yeah, every location is month to month, regardless if you're need to park at one of our locations or multiple. It's going to be month to month, and it's going to be separate.
Right on. Yeah, it definitely to me sounds like one of those factors for, somebody launching this as a business, growing a fleet that you should definitely be setting a line item aside for
Yeah,
making this a business expense.
right.
With that in mind, with your, background in business growth and marketing, looking at that kind of financing aspect, have you seen a trucking company, especially on the smaller end, struggle to be able to scale or grow because of finances in that manner because they didn't, account for it?
Not not for me personally, or looking into any of that. Obviously, with the world as it is these days, and especially in the trucking industry of trying to find freight and trying to move it and everything. Hopefully that all changes here, but in a different topic, if someone is late on their rent, obviously we take things into consideration of, okay, we understand, it's not like we're gonna, oh, you're late, you're getting towed right away type of situation. So, obviously we're more considerate when it comes to that. But in terms of your question, I haven't seen it directly. Now that's not to say that it isn't happening, but yeah, I'd be more interested to hear or even know, get feedback about that from
Yeah.
other logistics companies, where if they are getting affected by that, and how there can be a solution for that.
Definitely. Kind of looking into the future aspect, I guess kind of a two-parter. One, in say the next 5, 10 years, where do you see Freight Ninja going, and where do you see the overall issue of parking in the logistics industry going?
Yeah. From our standpoint, we continue to grow. I think we have another 5 or 6 locations that are ready to be onboarded here within the next couple weeks.
Nice.
We started with 4 or 5 in the beginning of 23, and now we're almost at 50
Wow.
in that less amount of years. And I think that's just uh, an attribute to, excuse me, that's something that goes to our CEO. He started this by himself, pretty much. And then as the months and years went on, he added more and more, for sake of sales and operations and all that. So, I think he deserves a lot of that credit for growing to where we are today. Now there are some locations that we've had to pass on, so we could be larger than we are. But yeah, I think our scale is going to continue to grow, and still provide the that model and in value that we kind of pride ourselves on here, of that community aspect. We want to make sure that we're providing a product that is suitable for these truck drivers and national fleets
Yeah.
together, that they have somewhere to park and be, have a conscience of knowing that, okay, if I'm at Freight Ninja, I know it's safe, I know it's protected, I can go somewhere, if I
Right.
needed to. So yeah, that's where I kind of envision us, now in terms of the industry in itself. I would hope that we would get more and more eyes on that, not only from our perspective, but more companies that are out there that doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Again, I don't. It's hard to say they're competitors. At the end of the day, sure, yeah, they are, but we're all trying to help and fix this crisis and issue all together. So if it's not us, it's somebody else. That's another thing too, that we've grown a network of partners. So if we don't have something directly, we can go to those partners and saying, hey, we need 50 spots or 3 acres in this location. Do you have something? So then we can kind of accommodate too as well for others. So, but yeah, I really do hope that whether it's us and 10 others, 20 others, how much ever, that we're getting the right eyes and push out there for a lot of these owner operators, especially, to help solve this issue. Again, it's going to be the hard thing of the financial end of it all, with the free versus paid. But I think we can everybody can get over that hurdle. But I think it's just making sure that there's enough out there for safe and secure truck parking, where no one's going to get injured, no one's going to get hurt, whether they're parking on the side of the highway or at a rest stop or a gas station or anything like that, where they
Right.
know that everything's secure.
100%. Now, if you could pick something, and I probably know where you're going with this, but if you could pick something to fix or change in the overall logistics industry, what would it be?
I would say probably either education or the eyes on truck parking. Yes, it's a big topic and everybody's there, but I think getting the right people together, whether it's excuse me, a board or legislators or anything like that, and bringing us all together and kind of defining what it all means of fighting this crisis or finding a solution for it, not only from a perspective of an operator standpoint, but also from the logistics companies and the owner operators, that it's not going to be a financial burden on them, and we're also going to be able to provide a product or products for them that they'll be able to we'll be able to facilitate the issue that they're focused in on.
Nice. Man, it's been amazing chatting with you today, and I feel like we've covered a ton, but I got to ask, do you feel like there's anything we've missed in today's chat?
I don't think so. I think I agree with you. I think this is it's been a good conversation. As much as like you said in the beginning, where we could have probably nerded out and gone down some rabbit holes with marketing and digital and all that. I think this was there was good sprinklings of that, but I think the overall discussion and topic there, and hopefully, I was able to provide some learning aspects to not only you but all the viewers out there that about what we're doing for truck parking end, but also the truck parking crisis in general.
Most definitely, man. I want to thank you seriously for coming on. Let's take you some time out of your day today, but also for dropping the knowledge. Help teaching us about this issue and your guys' company and where it's going. I would love to get you back on in the future to tap into your brain just a little bit more, but also to kind of keep track as Freight Ninja keeps growing, man. I think it's going to be an exciting journey.
Absolutely, I agree.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again so much. I'm gonna keep up with you on LinkedIn. You dropped that. LinkedIn has been majorly huge for my personal growth in the industry, and it's one of those things I always tell people, especially growing. Doesn't matter if you're just an owner operator or get into a fleet. Like, get in there and network any which way you can.
Exactly, yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. I always tell our sales reps too to get on there. It doesn't matter, if you're networking, if you're joining groups, connecting with people. Obviously for some posts, kind of keep it to you're representing a company. So kind of keep that. It's not X or Facebook or anything like that, but I've seen that growth too within LinkedIn in itself, and what it's been able to provide. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Fantastic. Well, man, it's been great chatting, and everyone else, thank you so much for joining in. Until next time, stay safe out there.